Okay, guys, looks like we're live here. And we'll see if anybody comes back. I just did a live stream before this where I showed a comic book haul from the previous month, my travels across Virginia for work. Um, and the app crashed. Now, it seems like it's doing this every third stream that I do. So if I all of a sudden go off the air, wait to see if people show up here. If I all of a sudden go off the air, it is the app crashing. I do get the window that says the app has crashed, and just I'll be right back. And apparently, when these upload, YouTube pieces it together where you don't see the gap. So we'll just say that's out there. See if anybody comes back. But I saw Avengers Endgame, and I got to tell you, man, a lot of people will do a review, and I'm probably going to say this two, three times as people come in, because I got my review down to like maybe two sentences, maybe it's a one sentence thing as people come in. But I'll say this over and over a little bit. Oh, we've already lost somebody. But here's my review, all right? Even though nobody's watching right now. That's funny. Um, see if anybody comes back. What is going on here? So I wonder if I got my Infinity War movie over here. Give me one second here. Be right back. It's probably downstairs. All right, guys. See, okay, somebody's here now. Okay, I grabbed some movies, right? So we started out, what was it, 2008, with this Iron Man movie. And it was freaking there was a little bit of energy to this when it came out. This is before, you got to remember, we're going way back before all this started, right? But it started out, here Robert Downey Jr., is going to be Tony Stark. And people were like on board with this because Robert Downey Jr. had substance abuse problems that were well documented, well reported on. And the people in the comic books knew that Tony Stark was an alcoholic. The demon in the bottle storyline, everybody was like, that's perfect, right? So you go to the theater to watch this movie. You kind of have the expectations aren't there like what we have for the Marvel movies now. Because we had two, three Batman franchise movies, and a little here, nothing really, you know, nothing really experimental or different, if you will. When Tim Burton's Batman came out, we got a Shadow movie that was had the same tone to it. Everybody tried to make a Tim Burton movie. Roger Corman's crew, in order to keep the movie rights, did a Fantastic Four movie that wasn't supposed to be taken seriously, and it felt like a Tim Burton movie. There was shots of people walking and stuff where that could have been the Penguin and stuff, right? And all of a sudden you go see Iron Man, and I will never forget sitting in the theater, and I'm like, this is better than what it's supposed to be. And then he emerged from the cave in the gray armor, from the freaking 60s, like reborn. It was like there's some symbolism there. Tony Stark came out reborn. And there was still a lightness to these stories that you laughed during a few parts of it, right? And it all started. You saw history being made, and little did we know, we were going to get 22 movies out of this that led up to one big story. You just didn't know where it was going to go, and they were getting all these things out. And the biggest thing to look forward to was the first Avengers movie. That's as far ahead as you looked. The first Avengers movie, they're going to bring all these heroes together. Well, how are they going to do this? The little characters popping up. And so there are going to be spoilers in this, as I think I put in the title if it's showing up and stuff. But my review of Avengers Endgame, well, Avengers Infinity War is the better movie, the better slash film. But Endgame is the perfect goodbye, pure fan service, pure. You're going to get everything you wanted to see with your heroes, and a lot of all loose ends tied up if there are any, right? So I'm just gonna kind of walk through the movie here, and if you've seen the movie, let me know. Again, there'll be spoilers and stuff, and that's my movie review part of it. Some of the things that I just wanted to like mention and stuff that I haven't really seen anybody else talking about that blew me away was right off the bat, it was genius because we actually got two movies in that. One of the things that blew my mind was the trailer and all the little snippets here and there that we got leading up to the movie. We actually had two movies in that. The first, what was it? I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of it is basically the movie that everybody predicted. Everything that anybody had popped up sort of critiquing Infinity War over, they did in the first 10 minutes of the movie. The biggest thing that I heard was, Thor actually ends up cutting off, his hand, Thanos' hand. Why they just cut off the Infinity Glove and stuff. You would hear things like that and everything. So they kind of just they went and they did all this stuff. Little do we know it was setting up the characters for the next 5 years because after they go after Thanos and try to get the glove. I haven't seen it yet and want to have to make myself as scarce as a good Bendis book. Have a good stream. Yeah, later, Eric. Let me give everybody a chance up. Hey, what's up? Saw it last night. Okay, there we go. Again, there will be spoilers in this, right? But there's, like I said, it's actually two movies, a mini movie and a movie. But a lot of the things that they did was we got a moment to see the ramifications of there's no way to change this, to win this. They go after Thanos. Thanos, long story short, had destroyed the Infinity Gem stones, and he talks about it. And Thor just, freaking loses his shit, and ends up chopping his hand off. Lets him talk. You got all the heroes holding him down. The Iron Hulk armor, Captain Marvel in a chokehold, Black Widow and Captain America come in like, we're going to mess you up, son, and find out there's no way to win this. And Thor cuts his head off. And a lot of people, that the effects that had on Thor over the years, mentally and emotionally, really was treated lighthearted, which I get why they did that and stuff. But we didn't realize we were getting a setup for the movie because it's 5 years later. Um, the person whose movie this is, the Infinity War, it was Thanos' movie, and this one it was Hawkeye's movie. Right off the bat, Hawkeye is one of us. He's retired, as they mentioned, and he's just hanging out with his family and his daughter and his two sons and his wife. And they're having a little picnic outside, and he just turns around and they're just gone. No enemy coming, no way to defend them. Just turns his back and his daughter's gone, and when he turns his back again, the rest of his family's gone, and he is us. He is us in this movie. He is the human anchor in this. That's what I don't think people realize. He's the one that kind of walks us through the movie a little bit. If you see when you see the movie, that'll make sense. So they jump 5 years later after Thanos tells him he's destroyed the diamonds. I came out liking Hawkeye a whole lot more than before. Kid Ragnarok, yeah. Hawkeye's character in this was the best one. I think he stole the show. And when we get to the endings, I'll mention that and stuff where they kind of brought it back around there. But throughout the movie, he's our anchor. He's us when they bring him in. They're throwing little tidbits. And it was well documented. Everybody really noticed Hawkeye wasn't even in Infinity War. They just kind of mentioned he was with his family. And the toll, we get the 5 year jump and we get to see how everything Thanos did affects everybody there. Um, we have Black Widow turned into Oracle, if you will, just dedicated to finding a way to fix this. The anchor still of the Avengers, keeping everybody connected out in space. Rocket Raccoon, even Captain Marvel, and everybody. They're still talking, and she's on her mind. She's just obliterated with this. Then you have Captain America, who is this is the scene that I can't believe people didn't lose their mind over. Maybe it was just for me. Because, like I said, Jim Starlin was my smoking buddy there for, I don't know, a year or two at Heroes Con. We never talked comics. We were just two guys who took the same smoke breaks at Heroes Con, which I think is hilarious. I have a picture up. But on Facebook, and I think maybe it's on Instagram too. I don't know. But anyway, Captain America is just kind of finding a new purpose here of hope. He's doing support groups and stuff, and everybody's kind of talking how they're finally moving on after 5 years, dating and stuff. And all of a sudden, there's Jim Starlin in the support group with a one line that he delivered. You know what I mean? And that's just it. It's a quick shot. But Jim Starlin, for you people that don't know it, the muggles that might end up just being fans of the movie and run across this, Jim Starlin is the creator of Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet, and he wrote all this stuff that they pulled from in comics to the movie. I'm like, yes, they did it. Um, so things have moved on. We see some people are obsessed. There's this feel of the world is much quieter in it, and I think that was purposeful because to me, from that moment all the way up until they meet with Tony again, Iron Man in the real world. There, it's kind of really quiet. Absolutely missed Starlin. Felt bad that slipped past me. Yeah, it's not a big deal, but I mean, I was really kind of surprised there. that a lot of people didn't jump up. I went with two of my friends, and I just turned to my buddy, and I was like, these muggles don't know who that is. I'm so glad they included Starlin. Starlin is treated much better by the Marvel Studios than he is by Marvel Comics. He's made that very clear on his Facebook. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so it's a very quiet world. There's little subtleties in this film, in this movie that they did, that some of it was sort of supposed to be much quieter. All right, though half the world's gone. They make a little comment about seeing a pot of whales in the Hudson River because the water's getting cleaner, because there's less ships and less people, and they kind of keep it light and stuff, right? And they're always kind of looking for something. Now, the movie is an ending, so they got to move it along. I get it. They got to come up with a reason, so you got to let a few things go, and I think that's not a problem. But the movie finally takes a turn of hope that after seeing that we've tried everything, we've been like this for 5 years, when there's a rat in a van that's in storage and it says Lang. So if you know the end of Ant-Man and Wasp, you know that this is Scott Lang trapped in the quantum universe or whatever, right? But this rat just kind of runs across his dashboard and he steps on this control panel, and lo and behold, he hits the right button, which just blows my mind. And Scott comes back into the real world, and it's only been 5 hours for him instead of 5 years trapped in the quantum world because everybody around him disappeared when Thanos did the snap. That was the first moment where I was like, "Oh no, don't let this suck. Don't tell me they did that." Well, you just move on. All right, they got the emotional stuff on. They got Scott here. They had to get him out somehow. So yeah, there we go. We can let that go. But that's the first bullshit moment where I just had just like 30 seconds of like, "Oh no." And we got our second cameo. I at least caught that line in all the credits about Starling. Cool. They wrote all the line. Yeah, they wrote that line in the credits as well. That's cool, man. So we get our second cameo, which I can't believe didn't make a difference in this. But if you've seen The Hangover, I can't believe I'm losing his name right now. The Hangover. We got the naked Asian guy that jumps out of the back of the car, onto everybody and stuff, right? And I think that's because he's probably, my guess is that he's friends with Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper is the voice of Rocket Raccoon, and we get him playing a little security guard there with a mustache and stuff. People caught that one. There's a few people that chuckled and they were waiting for more, but we moved on. So all of a sudden we get into the quantum physics and things, and we're seeing things for Civil War. That rat saved everything. Yeah, the true hero of Avengers Endgame is the rat that freed Scott Lang. You know what I mean? It could have been 100 years later, and it would have been 100 hours for Scott Lang. But thank goodness for rodents and rats. You know what I mean? I'm glad there was, the rat population. I don't think it decimated them being cut in half because they're rats. They could probably replace their entire population in, 24 hours. They're nasty rats. I hate rodents. Howler mouse is just an ironic name here. Okay, it's just an ironic name. Okay, there's a whole story for it. There's a video on how it came with howler mouse. But if I see a rat or a mouse, I'm stomping it. There's no pity for them. No, no. There's nasty disease carrying nastiness. The things they do to each other is terrible, especially when they're dead. Yeah, I at least caught that line in the credits about Starling. Nice. Okay, so moving forward there, man, all of a sudden we get to quantum physics. They pull Tony back in, and this is where we start getting a few little tidbits where they're setting up the end. Tony, after saying no, he has a daughter who loves him 3,000. People have jumped on that. I love you 3,000. That just seems to break people's hearts online, at least from what I've seen. Maybe a few people gasped in the theater that I could think of. And the theater was freaking packed. We ended up in the very front row, which is wild. But anyway, so people seem to love Tony's little daughter Morgan and stuff, and we get tinges of he made Pepper Potts armor, which I kind of heard about and stuff. She won't wear it, and we see that Tony has found his second chance with his kid. Tony has settled down in a lake. He is a family man, and they put the Avengers show up and they put the idea of quantum physics in his head. And I loved it because they actually got into this existential talk about time travel. And it was so funny because they named off every time travel movie you could think of, from Hot Tub Time Machine to where they mentioned a movie called Somewhere in Time, which I could pull the VHS of with Christopher Reeves in it that I loved since I was a kid. A movie that you watched, you would totally think I wouldn't like it, especially when you're like 8 years old watching it. Totally love it. But they find out, they come into saying that everything you've seen in movies is bullshit. And this is what made me realize that we're getting, as the movie went on, we had the same plot as Back in the Future 2. I was like, oh, they've just pulled Back in the Future 2 and kept the best parts. I was like, oh my God. Because Tony figures out quite easily, actually, from what they showed there in the film, how to time travel. He did an inverted Mobius strip with some variables that they don't tell us about, and he tells the computer, "Don't worry if it doesn't work," and it works. Then we get these nice little family moments. And then he looks at Pepper Potts and saying, "I can just take the. I beat it. I figured out time travel. I can put it in a box, dump it in the bottom of the lake, lock it up, forget about it." And she says, "But Tony, could you rest knowing that?" So Tony comes up with the idea of, we're not going to lose the past 5 years. I'm not going to lose my daughter. We're not going to change time and stuff like that, but we're going to bring everybody back. And they decided they're going to different points in time, and they're going to get all of the stones and bring them back, and then take them back. I'm just moving this along for you. They come up with the idea and the promises and stuff that they're going to take them back exactly where they got them, so time can go on. This is pretty cool, but here's where some little Easter eggs come on. I'm big in the Easter eggs. They decide to have a jam session where they sit around and they're like, now let's figure out where these stones were so we can all figure out where we're going because we got one shot. They got one shot to go back and one shot to come back. That's all they have thanks to the Pym particles. They have just enough Pym particles to shrink them down, go to the quantum field, and then come back and shrink down and come back. That's all they got. They had a little test run there that went bad. But it was really interesting because it felt like old Marvel comics, like Fantastic Four stuff. Because when it comes to the quantum physics and the time travel and the big brain stuff, to me, Marvel comics, that's always going to be Reed Richards' idea. That's Reed Richards. That's the guy you went and visited. You didn't go visit Tony. You visited him. And they talked about some of the things. I mean, I learned some real science, as a kid in the Fantastic Four of all places and stuff, and the alternate timelines that came from the Fantastic Four, and some of the jargon that Tony was talking about, where he was coming up with actual physics theories and stuff. Scott Lang did a test run where he went into time, came back out and was an old man, went back in. He was a 12-year-old kid, went back in. He was a baby, and they brought him back, and he was fine. And Tony Stark was like, "Hey, I bet he turned into a baby. It's because they pushed time through him instead of him going through time." And you're hearing all the stuff that should just make your eyes cross and stuff, and you're a little bit fascinated. And they're showing you, not telling you, and then they're coming in with, "Hey, here's the mystery. This is how smart Tony is, right?" So anyway, Tony's on board. Him and Steve are starting to, become friends again. That mutual respect. It's like two people who just missed each other for years, because Tony almost starved to death on a spaceship and went off on anybody and everybody and passed out before we see him again in pretty good shape 5 years later. But it was the part where Pepper Potts said, "Could you rest?" That was actually setting up the end. That was another thing that I caught they were doing. But going back, I'm getting all over the place. But anyway, getting back, they now have time travel thanks to Tony, but they got to figure out how they're going to get the stones in one shot. So they're trying to figure out where the stones are in history so they can do the least amount of jumps. And they figure out, when they start talking about Doctor Strange and his time stone, they figure out that Black Widow is the one that figures out that they're all in New York at one point in history, like 2012 or something, right? And but what the Easter egg that was there is that a lot of people don't seem to really get. I know they're in the Marvel movies and everything like that, but I don't have television, and I even caught this. But we have Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., who is Sherlock Holmes. He was Sherlock Holmes in two movies. Two movies I didn't enjoy. Didn't feel like Sherlock Holmes to me, but they are what they are. Guy Ritchie directed them. Then you have Cumberbatch, who was the great Sherlock, on Stephen Moffat, I think, over in England and stuff. And this show went worldwide. I mean, it was like in America, you saw Doctor Who and you saw Sherlock. Great stuff. They put a lot of people who became heroes and villains and supporting cast from Doctor Who and from Sherlock over in England and brought them over here. He's also Sherlock Holmes. So when I was watching Infinity War and I saw these two going at it, I'm like, they're both Sherlock. This is hilarious. And in this movie, they're trying to figure out where There's like, where does Strange live? Isn't it Greenwich? No, man, it's Bleecker Street. And I heard that line and I'm like, that's got to be improv. Bleecker Street is where freaking Sherlock Holmes lives. They threw out a Sherlock Holmes acknowledgement Easter egg there. And I'm like, damn it, people, wake up. Yeah, this is some of these Easter eggs and things like that were killing me that people weren't chuckling. And I'm like, I've got a problem. I'm like, it's me, it's not them. So I mean, they were getting their stuff together, and now the movie is starting. Man, there's this sense of hope, and they go on, and it's just really fun. This is where we get our fan service for real. It's really fun, where they get to go back in time at different points. You get to revisit, different movies. You get to see the opening scene of Guardians of the Galaxy in a completely different way. You get to see the Civil War. Which I'm not going to get into that. We'll just leave it what it is. But we got the elevator scene that Cap had the big fight with the Shield agents and stuff that didn't really happen, and they did an Easter egg for. I was the same way. Crickets, come on, people. Yeah, Alan's with me here, man. But they did something in there that for the comic book fans where I was like, oh shit, and they triggered me like it was 2017 again. You do get to hear Steve Rogers say Hail Hydra. It's the future. They didn't know that Shield was really being run by Hydra in the Marvel movies. But in 2007, we had that god awful Nick Spencer, and he got a credit in the credits. I think Nick Spencer's a writer, but Nick Spencer wrote that horrible story in 2017, the story whose name I shall not mention, where in reality Cap was always a Hydra slash Nazi agent. You don't get to separate yourself from the Nazis because that's what Hydra was. Uh, you know, and in reality, it was saying that Cap was always a Nazi, and somebody had used a cosmic cube to change time to where Cap was a good guy. And he said "Hell Hydra," and all hell broke loose. To me, it was really the final. Well, I don't know. It was probably like the middle nail in Marvel's coffin, as far as I'm concerned. You know, so they threw that in there, but the way they handled it and stuff, man, I was just sort of like, they think they're giving us a good Easter egg here. I'm like, oh no. But don't worry, in the movie, Cap is just posing as a Hydra agent because he's from the future, and they knew that Hydra was running the show, and that's how he ended up getting one of the stones. So one of the things that I'm waiting to go viral on Twitter and stuff, and I'm actually getting to see new cosplay, is the talk about Captain America's ass in this. There is a whole session where Tony Stark gets to look at Tony while he's hiding, and we're back in the Avengers movie. He's back in time. He's watching, and he makes a comment of like, "Geez, Rogers, that costume doesn't do your ass justice." And then you've got Ant Man standing on Tony's shoulder, who's like, "That's America's ass. What you talking about?" And then later on, we get Steve Rogers fighting Steve Rogers, who thinks the future Steve Rogers is Loki. We're talking time travel, people. Your eyes are going to cross, and you're going to pass out if you think too hard about it. And after he knocks out and beats past Captain America, he takes a minute to look at his own ass, and he's like, "That is America's ass." Now, why am I talking so much about Captain America's ass? Because my buddy Anderson pointed out, he's like, I wonder if that's a shot at Brie Larson, because when she was doing Captain Marvel, the movie, and we got some early footage and pictures from it and stuff, she had a flat butt in her costume, and they come to find out, supposedly, allegedly, they brought in a butt model for Brie Larson. So I'm thinking that whole thing is they got to know Brie a little bit or something, and they went into it. I've seen it twice already. Thuggy, yes, Thuggy is out there. What's up, brother? Check out Thuggy's channel, guys. Me and Thuggy go way back as much as you can on YouTube here and stuff. A few phone calls back in the day and stuff. And the man has survived hurricanes. Um, yeah, the Secret War reference. Yeah, Thuggy, I'm getting to that. I'm kind of just walking through here, man. I mean, this is probably a crickets kind of stream, but I'm just going to throw out there what I saw and stuff. We'll get to the Secret Wars reference and stuff. But that's actually kind of a good segue because things go on, things get messed up, and we get to the Hulk. We get to see two different kind of Hulks there for a minute. It was supposed to be funny. Wait till I get to the Thor stuff. So we see the Hulk and stuff, right? Now, as everybody know, Hulk pretty much got his ass handed to him on Thanos. Dr. Hulk and Rocket hunting down Thor, New Asgard was absolutely fun, and then Thor going back to old Asgard was touching. The comic book of Steet is here. Yes. All right. So, we got the Hulk, and if you go way back, now this is before Peter David bringing in, Professor Banner Hulk, if you will, back in the day where everything is merged and we get Smart Hulk Banner's personality, Hulk's personality, the brains and the brawn. Way back in the day, going back to what they were saying, Secret Wars and stuff. Oh my God, was it Bill Mantlo writing that stuff? I think it was Bill Mantlo who, and this is why I'm thinking this is what they're referencing, because Bill Mantlo helped create Rocket Raccoon, if you will. Okay, a little nod to him. But we find out that the Hulk is now, you know, smart. We have our Professor Hulk the first time around. So we see Mark Ruffalo explaining that he spent a year and a half kind of stopping looking at the Hulk as a problem and kind of like a cure a bit of it. And now there's this balance where he's the brains and the brawn, and it's great. And he's very confident, and he's the voice of reason through this. He's actually kind of funny. There's a peace with the Hulk in this. And when they travel back in time, you get to see the Hulk smashing everything. They actually kind of make him look like a bit of a Hulk and Thor get really disrespected in this if you don't think about it. You know what I mean? But the Hulk is jumping around and smashing, throwing tires and jumping on things like a little 4-year-old kid, and the Hulk is like, "This is gratuitous violence and stuff." He's really reasoning things. I love the Hulk in this flick. His facial expressions were hilarious. I liked it. There's people that the two biggest things that I've heard is that people did not like how the Hulk was handled and how Thor was handled. I'm lucky enough to be on the side of one time where I'm like, I'm down with it, because some of it does go with the comics. But the thing about it is that we were talking about a reference. Now later on in the movie, Avengers compound headquarters gets the shit blown out of it to where it's obliterated. And the Hulk, War Machine, Rocket Raccoon end up so far down, the river is underneath the compound, down in like below sewers, I think, that they're starting to drown. And the Hulk is holding up a huge amount of space with one arm, mind you. He's holding up, tons and tons and tons of this compound, trying not to live by squash while the water is rising and stuff, right? This goes back to Secret Wars. What, help me out, guys? Number 6 or something. It's an amazing cover where the Hulk, where the Molecule Man or somebody just freaking dropped a whole mountain on all the superheroes in Secret Wars, a whole mountain range, and you got the Hulk doing this while Mr. Fantastic is messing with Iron Man's armor and Captain Marvel's energy, trying to think how it was doing. Maybe 4. Thank you, Thuggy. Number 4. I've got it in a box right over here. I mean, I've got it right there. I can pull it out. And I thought that was a cool thing. That's the thing about these Marvel movies. It's one thing to watch movie people and channels talk about them and things like that, but it's another thing when you've read the comics for 42 years that you're sort of like, nice, nice. Secret Wars number 4. Thor 390. I mean, you're sitting there watching this like, yeah, that happened in the 80s. It's one of the most memorable sequences from Secret Wars. It puts Secret Wars on the map, my friend, in my opinion. I really do. The way I remember it now, granted, I was like 10 years old when that came out. I think I was 10 and stuff, but there's nothing like I said, the whole gauge when you're a kid in pre-internet days, and I'm sure people, have their own, or they'll agree with me, or they had that thing, was when you went to school, when you heard people who either didn't collect comics or wouldn't admit they collect comics were talking about it. Like, did you see what this did? People, that to me, that's when Secret Wars was put on the map and it was taken seriously. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm so glad Thuggy and people like that are out there who were there. Okay. So anyway, where was I? So they go back in time. We get our nods to past movies, Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, and then we have our Infinity War nod where they send Hawkeye, who is now Ronin, because with his family disappearing, he went to a dark place, killed a lot of people, and became that character that really worked in comics. I think, from what I remember, it was actually a pretty good way to go. Yeah, I caught that Secret Wars reference. Thought it was cool. Kid Ragnarok, awesome, awesome. But we get Hawkeye again, right? Like I said, this guy stole the movie. We get a freaking fantastic little. I don't know. I think the thing was probably like 60 minutes, and we get everything that he has become and everything he is. He is, because he's got the hood on, he's got the Ronin costume on, he's got the sword, and he's just ripping through Tokyo street against, I guess, the Tokyo Mafia or something, man. And they're having like samurai fights and stuff, and they're getting in there, and we get everything that Hawkeye has become. What happens with his family taken away? How dark he's gone. And we kind of, the thing about Scarlet Witch, the thing about Black Widow and Hawkeye is that you get that they're not a couple. but they're very close. And you just kind of know without seeing the story that Hawkeye brought her from a dark place. I could go for a Ronin movie now. Yes, yes, that's what I mean. This is Ronin. Yes, yeah. Ronin is kind of like Deadpool to me. I'm not a big fan of Deadpool in the comics because I was there when he came out. Me and my brother had our New Mutants '98. He was not a big deal, you know what I mean? But I loved him in the movies. I'm a fan of Deadpool in the movies, not in the comics. Ronin, not really a huge, yeah, not really a huge fan. No hate there. Just it does nothing for me. But to see him in a movie, fantastic, fantastic. Um, but anyway, so Scarlet Witch is there, and she's trying to bring Hawkeye back. I mean, he's Ronin now, we know, and she brings him back and stuff. And it's like they've come full circle. You get the idea that Hawkeye pulled her from the dark place, if you will, being an assassin or whatever. I mean, when she met Winter Soldier, she whispered in his ear, "At least act like you recognize me." So I hope that there is a Black Widow movie, which I don't know how they could do it unless it's a flashback. Hopefully, we'll get to see that. It kind of gives you the idea that Winter Soldier and Black Widow were lovers back in the day. But it's like it's coming full blown. She's trying to pull him back in, right? There's a relationship there. It's very cool. And again, this goes back to the comics of the 60s. That Hawkeye sequence in Japan told me that they could legit do street level character in the MCU. Kid Ragnarok. Yeah. And what do we got coming up, guys? They've announced Shang-Chi, however you want to say it. I think it's Chi myself. Shang-Chi. We're getting some street level stuff coming. Who knows? Um, I mean, they're in Tokyo. Maybe we're going to see a Ronin. I don't know, But it'd be cool if they tied some of that in there. I can see it. I can see it being an Easter egg for the future. I mean, But anyway, so that whole sequence come. Good morning. I told, great, awesome, man. Now, for you guys who are into the comic book aspect of this, Hawkeye and Black Widow were a thing back in the early '60s. Okay, Hawkeye was a bad guy. Black Widow was a bad guy. She was a legit Russian spy. And her costume was very close and very similar to Black Widow's. She had like a little hat with a veil, and she had sleeves and leggings of fishnet and things like that. But the whole thing they did is they made her a femme fatale, and Hawkeye was an idiot, and he was being manipulated by Black Widow, is what they were saying. And that's why Avengers number 16 with Captain America rebuilding the team from the other Avengers. They kind of touched on that a few years ago, I thought. We got some bad guys that became Avengers. For some reason, I know it was the 60s, they didn't have to go to jail for the crimes, but you had Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch, who came from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and stuff. All of a sudden, Cap's bringing them in as, you know, Avengers and stuff, right? So that's a little nod to the past. I love how whoever's writing, controlling these Marvel movies and stuff, they take just enough from the comic books to where if you're knowledgeable about the comics, it's there for you. Like they nailed it. They take a little seed there that kind of acknowledges their beginnings, and it just worked. That's one of the reasons I think it works so well in the movies. They take it serious. Like, here's our starting point. Let's go back to where it started. Um, that's why I push my Thor annual from the '70s where he meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they're really running with that. I'm really hoping that annual goes up. So anyway, so they bring him in. They come up with their big plan. We get our fan service for visiting the movies. Here's how far we've come. Here's where we are. We're 5 years in the future. Let's do this. And still, it's not enough. They can't just have it be a walk in the park, even as far as they've come. We have a plot point where, unintentionally, thanks to Nebula, she kind of connects in the same network from across the galaxy. Another one of those moments where I kind of want to call bullshit. You know, across the galaxy, but where she's in the future and her present self, the future self, and the past self apparently share some kind of network there with their memories and stuff. They're able to get online for some weird reason and connect, which makes no sense. My laptop and your laptop don't talk to each other, from across the galaxy, different solar systems and stuff, but they're able to access Nebula's memories. Again, your eyes are going to cross here, but anyway, Thanos finds out thanks to Nebula. Space Wi-Fi is super strong. Exactly. Exactly. Shang-Chi. Somebody says something about my proposal towards Shang-Chi. I'll see that comment in a minute here. The app isn't working. Now that we have people here, I'm giving you a heads up. The YouTube app I have, I'm gonna have to like reload it or see what's going on, but it's crap. If this stream drops, hang out for 60 seconds. It picks right back up, and I always get a window telling me it's the YouTube app failing. So if I crash again, just let it go. It happened in my last stream. So anyway, they have the Wi-Fi, this space magical Wi-Fi, I guess, and I know that Thanos finds out everything, and now you have your oh crap. I kind of for some reason it made me feel like this was a plot point from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You know what I mean? I don't know. But anyway, we have Nebula making herself look like the future Nebula to prove herself to Thanos, and they see everything. Okay, Thanos sees everything. He sees his death, and he gets empowered by it, thinking, "I'm going to succeed, no matter what. It's my destiny." When he sees his head cut off, he's like, "That's destiny being fulfilled." So he feels like everything he's working for, he's justified. It's inevitable. That's what he said, and stuff like that. So now we have our wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. We got our Turkish delight here, to ruin everything. You're like, oh no, and Nebula is trying to warn everybody that Thanos knows, he knows, and all this stuff, right? Then we go to that planet where you get the soul gem, and the whole time I was sitting there squirming. This is probably the only part of the movie that had me squirming because I knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. You just didn't know which one it was going to be. But when you watched Infinity War, Thanos, who kept every promise he made to everybody. Not what they didn't want to give up everything, so they gave him the gems, and he kept the promises about not killing those people and the people he promised not to kill to them. But he gets to that planet where we have our Red Skull in the robes and letting we find out that he refers to Black Widow as son of Ivan and the daughter of Ivan, and then Hawkeye is son of Ethel. All of a sudden Black Widow knows who her dad is, or at least has a name. She never knew who her dad was, is what comes to find out. That's what convinces her this is real. And they find out that you have to give up something you love to get the soul gem. And Thanos, who gave up everything in his eyes by killing Gamora for this, now they have to make the choice. And they're fighting over which one's going to die. And this really kind of tore you up after if you've been on the trail with them, the journey with them through all these movies together, seeing where they're going. Black Widow feels like she failed and wants to fix this, and she's been leading up to it to where she'll give her life to say bring back all those people. And she doesn't want Hawkeye to do it because he could be there for his family, even though he feels like he's turned into a monster. There's a reference to her bodyguard handler from her solo series and Avengers, Ivan Petrick. Oh, I've got that on the top shelf. Good call, Paulo. Very good. I've actually got that. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, nice. Got some Black Widow trivia coming out of this. So you have this. To me, that tore me up. That scene wrecked me. It wrecked me. I want to admit it. All right. So I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there beside my buddy Anderson. Star, his wife's on the other side of him, and he said that there's parts in the movie where he was sitting there watching it. He could hear sniffles on his left and sniffles on his right, and I just heard him from the whole back row. And I'm sure I was one of the sniffles. So I'm sitting there. And I'm just like, oh man, because I knew it was coming. I knew what they were doing. I just didn't know who was going to be. And this is where Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye, the actor playing Hawkeye, man, that scene was his best scene. When he is running towards that cliff, you need to watch him and look at him and see that look on his face. This is an actor who's able to tap something where he's just accepted he's going to die. It's powerful. My eyes malfunction too. Bucky. Yes. 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 So that's what I'm trying to tell you. This was his movie. When you slow down and do the rewatching, and if you really kind of step back from the movie, it was Hawkeye's movie. I mean, he's the one that kind of carried us through it with his little storyline. We see what he lost at the beginning. We know what he's trying to get back. We see how he thinks of himself as some monster now. You know, whoa. So we get our soul gem. It goes. Everybody kind of goes back. We have our fake Nebula. We have our side story there where Tony got to meet his dad, and Captain America got to lay eyes on the girl that he had a date with before he disappeared. And those two ended up having their mission messed up. I'm not going to spoil it because it's actually kind of funny what's going on there, and it's really complicated if I did it in this stream here, right? But they ended up taking another time jump to 1970, and like I said, Tony gets to meet his dad. He gets to have like a little talk and get to say a few things and gets one awkward last hug, even though everybody thinks he's a beatnik. And he ends up giving his dad advice. And then Captain America gets to see Miss Carter one time through a window and stuff. And that was actually our first clues of how Captain America's story was going to end. Um, Actually, that's the part of the movie that made me think they were both going to die. I was sitting here like, they're getting weird closure here, and I'm like, they're going to die. That's what I was thinking. So now, for some reason, I know Iron Man is the one that started it all, and it's cool. I had the movie and stuff, but I got my Captain America movie down there. Captain America in the Marvel movies is my guy. So I'm already sort of like squirming in my seat. I'm up in front. I'm trying to be cool here, and I'm like, no, this isn't good. Everybody's just loving it. You know what I mean? Like everybody's enthralled, and we're getting. Now I'm sitting here like, no, this is not good. I'm like, this is storytelling. This is them getting us to sympathize with them, or remind us why all the great things and stuff. I'm like, oh no, they're just setting us up to knock us down, right? So I'm like, oh shit, this is like watching knowing the icebergs coming in Titanic. I'm like, oh hell. So anyway, everybody completes their mission. Everybody comes back, and they are all tore up because of Black Widow. And we get to see them have their moment about Black Widow dying, where they're trying to figure out they can do it. And now we get to Thor, right? I've been waiting for all this with Thor, right? This is where you actually start seeing how far gone Thor is gone, all right? I love Chris Evans' Cap. Totally felt the same way. Yes, Kid Ragnarok. Yes. So this is where we get to Thor and we see the toll of it. Yes, it was funny. Yes, what they did to him, I kind of laughed and I got a kick out of it. And I think I'm a big Lebowski fan, so that's probably why I'm all right with it. I laughed at my girlfriend having a problem with it, and I feel bad, and I probably have to kiss a little butt, but I don't do much of that, honestly. But yeah, she deserves it. But it's her favorite hero. If they screwed up Captain America, I'd been right there, so I can be compassionate. But anyway, but we come to find out that the Asgardians are on a beachfront somewhere. I don't know, Netherlands, Switzerland, where Norway, whatever. But they're living on a beachfront. They look like fishermen, and it was such a cool little scene there where we went through the tacos. A few people have watched the tacos scene. I love it. Having Scott Lang sit there with his poor little taco blown away, and he's got an empty shell, and you have the Hulk coming up giving him his taco and sitting with him. Then we have the Hulk sitting in the back of a truck with a little rocket raccoon. I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're just tugging at me. They're just tugging at me here. I'm like, yes, sharing tacos and stuff, right? Just awesome. But we get to see the Asgardians. They look like fishermen and stuff now, and we find out that that Thor, long story short, comes out once a month to get all the kegs of beer and supplies of beer and stuff, and he's hanging out with some of his alien buddies from Thor Ragnarok, and they're playing Fortnite and yelling at 12-year-old kids over the internet, and Thor looks like 300 pounds of wadded up, chewed up bubble gum. He's lost his physique. He's got his hair grown. He's got the thick beard. And they're trying to tell him, Hulk's trying to tell him that you're needed. He's in a very dark place, but it's very comedic. He feels like he failed. This whole thing with Thanos and failing to kill Thanos before he killed half the universe took a hard toll on him, and they did it very light. They got Thor in a very dark place, but they kept it very light. And he's even referenced as the dude, as Lebowski by Tony Stark when they see him. What pissed me off the most? He wore Crocs. They had Thor wearing Crocs. That's what really pissed me off, right? So I'd like to thank Marvel for letting all us middle-aged guys be able to relate to someone like Chris Hemsworth. Thank you. Your titties were bigger than mine in this one. Much appreciated. But totally got it. I mean, it's a really sad state to be in, but they still kept it light. He needs redemption. They need to bring him back. Hulk is the one now that was trying to bring him back and talk to him. Thor would never wear Crocs. He might wear bunny slippers, though. Exactly, Paulo. Exactly. Bunny slippers. Something funny, not something as demeaning as Crocs. And I don't care. I am totally a bigot when it comes to Crocs. I think they're ridiculous looking shoes. When I first saw them, I thought it was a joke because I was like, that's what Popeye wears. They look like cartoon shoes. And I've actually seen a $50 pair of Crocs. Can you believe this? Bunny slippers were furry like Viking boots. Exactly. Actually, I can see Thor going out there and grabbing two bunnies and actually wearing the rabbits. Just saying. He's from that era. You know. But yeah, I saw a $50 pair of Crocs the last time I went and bought some shoes and couldn't believe it. Yeah, yeah, Thuggy. Yeah, look at him. Look at Crocs and then look at some old pictures of Popeye. Crocs are only cool if you're 3 years old. Fair enough, baby. Baby, big baby. Oh, big baby. SLD. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, if you're 3, cool. They look cute on my daughter. Okay, I can go with them being kid shoes. I can go with that. You know. But being an old school kid, I hated when my kid had Velcro shoes because I'm like, he needs to learn to tie his shoes. So I don't know. I don't know. They definitely played Thor for laughs, but Hemsworth switches is serious on when necessary. Chris Hemsworth is a smart dude with his career, right? I mean, I have Cabin in the Woods, and I saw the Red Dawn, not his fault and stuff, and how he played Thor and stuff. But it was that god awful Ghostbusters. I can't believe I just referenced that in this. The god awful Ghostbusters remake, whatever you want to call it, reboot, whatever the hell they were doing, that he was actually funny. I think that's when we really got to see how funny he could be and stuff like that. So I kind of like how they're tapping that a little bit and stuff, right? But he had, when they were, Hemsworth was gold in this movie. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. He's got a performance that after they referenced him, he's walking around with the sunglasses and he's got this robe on and his Crocs and his pajama bottoms and all this stuff and his gut hanging out and all this stuff. But he did, the performance he gave was actually really good, unless he really was messed up on alcohol or something. I don't know, man. But they asked him when they were trying to figure out where in time we can go to, find the ether. One of the stones apparently was an ether, and the, when it comes to like the Captain Marvel movie, I put it like number 19, and then I put Iron Man 3, and then the second Thor movie as the very last one. I fell asleep during the damn movie. You know what I mean? It was that bad. Dark Age or whatever it was called, right? It was very bad. So I must have missed the whole Jane Foster thing, having the stone in her, and probably slept through it. Seriously, not exaggerating. So when he was trying to tell the story about the ether, and all of a sudden he was talking about Jane and going off on tirades, just sort of like floating around in the stream of consciousness, talking about things and couldn't stay on point. You saw how sad he really was, and that this man needs to find some healing now. I mean, it's really a genius performance, but you're laughing so hard at it that it's going to go over your head if you don't think about it. Can you pass an infinity stone like a kidney stone? Apparently, and a bunch of my buddies and I were talking about, like, we thought you couldn't actually hold an infinity stone, but apparently you can hold a soul stone and the ether one and all this stuff. I was just that was another bullshit moment for us and stuff. I was like, okay, maybe it's just some stones you can't hold. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's a fun movie. This is saying goodbye. A lot of stuff was for convenience, just to move the story along. I mean, like I said, I let go after a rat just kind of crawled across a dashboard in a van and saved. You know. Anyway, so but Thor's his whole performance was just really fantastic. I mean, it's underrated. I'm like, okay. So Rocket Raccoon, for some reason, this is another bullshit moment. Thor is obviously not in any state to help them, period, and he still gets to time travel on an important mission to go get the ether. I guess he's needed on Asgard to show Rocket Raccoon away. It's one of those things that if you talk with your friends, you can defend a decision, but you can also defend how the decision was wrong. You know what I mean? Now, story wise, it was convenient because he got to talk to his mother. And I loved the little things they did with his mom talking to them. I mean, it really felt like somebody was talking to their mom, and you knew it was going to be all right. This was going to be the turning point for Thor. And his mom knew right away he was from the future. And I loved her line. She's like, they didn't overcompensate. They didn't try to explain too much. They just went, son, I was raised by witches. I see things, and you know that in different ways, or something like that. And I was like, oh, God, this is actually kind of touching. They turned it around on her. And what do? He tries to tell her they're going to die. Rocket Raccoon is running, on his all fours and stuff. And I'm like, oh, God, this is kind of pandering a little bit to be funny, to lighten the moment. That's the thing about the Marvel movies. They never go too deep. It seems like, stay in the dark too long. And what does Thor's mom do? He's like, I got to tell you something. This is the day you died. She didn't get to say that. But he was like, I need to tell you something. She's like, no, no, I don't want to know about my future. And son, eat a salad. You know, it's just so funny. And they go home, and you can tell Thor's gonna be all right. And we get Yarnor back. He pulls Yarnor. He sits there and he gets it before they can leave. You know, so we get our hammer back, which was a cool moment. Now I was sitting there like with the anticipation of like, oh, he's getting it back. Did they take it back? I don't know. That is a question that we'll do there in a minute. So they all come back. Black Widow's dead, and they put the thing together. And Thor is still a little bit messed up. And now they're trying to decide that they are using Stark technology to contain all that power. Again, I'm like, this is not right because Thor had to freaking get a use the power of a store of a star. You know, I mean, he had to go somewhere where they make actual magical items and things. And we had a giant Peter, you know, yeah, Tyrion made it, and we don't have to make it anymore. You know, but apparently Tony Stark has the technology to make a gauntlet and put it all in there. Fine, fine. Let's just move on. And now they're fighting over who's going to do it. Thor's like, let me do it. You know, they saw what happened to how it almost killed, you know, Thanos and stuff. And Thanos single-handedly handed almost everybody their ass at one point. And so Thor's wanting to do it. He's willing to sacrifice himself. These people are so down that not a lot of them are actually doing it for the greater good. A lot of them are actually doing it to kill their pain, to relieve their guilt for feeling like they failed. Hawkeye's willing to sacrifice. Black Widow's willing to sacrifice. Thor just don't give a shit anymore. And Hulk's like, it's just logically that I do it and stuff. Thor's the strongest Avenger. I don't know. I don't know. He's supposed to be. He's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I'm like, but in this movie, we had an out of shape Thor with cheese whiz, and that is a line from the movie Thor with cheese whiz in his veins, half drunk for years and stuff. He was not the strongest one. Who threw that line out? Yeah, yeah. So anyway, they decide the Hulk's going to do it, and Tony Stark is like, remember, you know, he's like, remember, just bring everybody back. Don't change anything from the last 5 years. And Tony is still haunted. Tony Stark was pulled between his new daughter and his second chance in his family, and that he lost Peter Parker. Okay, Spider Man was also a little bit of a heart in this that people are going to miss. Um, you know. So anyway, Hulk ends up snapping his finger and his freaking arm and half his body is just all gone. But what was so funny to me is that they put the barricades up. They had the steel doors coming down over the windows and the doors and stuff. They were going to contain any kind of explosion in there, right? You follow me? But what do they do inside the room? Thor takes Rock Raccoon and pushes him behind him. Thor gets Hawkeye, Ronin, whatever he's calling himself now, with his new sleeve tattoo arm and stuff like that. And he just puts up a little shield. Nobody leaves the room. You know, they're all willing to die to watch this. That's one of the things I was like, let it go. Again, let it go. Let it go. They're worried about the big explosion and they're all going to die. So that, all this stuff, right? So he does the snap and it, does a number on the Hulk and they lift the doors down. And all of a sudden, immediately, Hawkeye's phone's going off. I love how it's like 5 years later and everybody's kept the same phone number, which I guess that is now the realm of possibility because I've actually had the same one now for 5 years myself, I think. So I guess it's okay. Okay. I travel the world. I'm a secret superhero. I'm killing people. I've got, War Machine and international people, police coming after me, but I got my same phone number. I guess they could have just called me up and I could have turned myself in. I'm probably, of all things, I'm probably stuck on that a little bit too much. But anyway, so I knew it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they turn around and apparently they don't know it's worked, but that phone call tells us it worked. And what's Ant Man doing? He sees a bunch of birds and he's convinced it worked. But while this was going on, while they had shielded the place right before somehow right before all this had happened, Nebula bought somehow with just a canister of PIM particles, which I'm going to say that due to them being out in space and having advanced technology and it's Thanos, maybe they were able to recreate more. But Thanos was able to shrink his whole entire ship, come through the quantum field that Nebula stuck her fingers in a computer and brought him out, and he busted through the ceiling, and nobody heard that busting of the ceiling. Sometimes we have to let slide for enjoyment's sake. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just calling it out because we're talking about it. I was able to move on, believe me. I'm thinking they replaced it. Yeah, okay, we can go with that. They replaced it. That's cool. But anyway, so he busts out, and what happens? This is another one of those moments you got to let it go because everybody's guards down. Everybody's wondering if it happened. Everybody's looking at the Hulk sitting there, and Thanos is up in the air. You can see the ship come over, and he just freaking blasts the hell out of the Avengers compound to beyond rubble. It's a fucking crater. You're just like, what? And amazingly, everybody survived to a certain extent. And that's when we come back to the Hulk holding all that stuff up, and Rocket Raccoon was like Kenton Breed. The War Machine's armor is busted up. He's crawling around, and he's helping save Rocket. And we got Ant-Man saying, I'm coming to save them. And then this to me is where the movie finally starts. When I buy this movie, when I sit down to watch this movie, I'm not going to watch the first half. I'm going to go directly to right here. Thanos lands comes to the ground. He knows it's inevitable. He knows the stones are here that they've collected for him. He sends out Nebula to go get it, and he just sits there and he's going to wait. It's obviously a trap, and I loved how they called it out. Tony and Cap called it out. So they come out there. It's Thor, Captain America, and Tony Stark. They've just had to blasted the holy hell out of it. How the hell did they survive that shit? Loved it, but damn, yeah, exactly. This somebody to me, somebody. Anyway, yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. They totally didn't see it coming and everything like that. But everybody's good, and this is where Hawkeye again gets to be it. He's the one that is kind of underground, and everything's blown all to shit underground. He survived, and he finds the gauntlet still intact. And he turns around and he hears something, and it's like, I don't know, Thanos' hellhounds coming after him in this little tunnel. We get a little bit of sci-fi horror here, and he's running with the gauntlet. And I did have to turn and look at somebody. I might have been a complete stranger. They were like, put it on. I'm like, it would kill him. They just set up everything. Using that glove will kill him, so he can't use it. It was a good way that they avoided a plot hole. Let's put it that way. I'll give them that. That kind of makes up. I'm not saying it makes up for a lot, but at least I like how they acknowledge some stuff. So we got everything against the Avengers now. They're down. But anyway, you got Thanos up there. Stating, and then we come back to our trio, our three. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. Always should come back to them because in the Avengers comic book, those are the three. There should always be one of them in the Avengers if it's going to work, if not more than one, right? And now after this movie, I feel like it should be Hawkeye too, even though he did the West Coast Avengers in the '80s. But we'll go back around there. But anyway, so we turn around and we're finally going to get to see it. Thor has his chance for redemption. Captain America is there. This is it. We got the gauntlet. We got a second chance of this son of a bitch, and let's get him. And by this point, where if you watch Infinity War, you can't help but sit there and wonder if Thanos has a point with some of what he's saying. This one, they take it all back. He is a megalomaniac, psychotic, homicidal, genocidal, just piece of freaking shit. And you're like, kill that son of a bitch. Now you're like, kill that son of a bitch. You know what I mean? It's really odd. You know what I mean? Like how you've watched Infinity War and you catch yourself like, no, 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 no. Like no, 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 don't listen to him. That silver tongued little devil and stuff like that. And then you see this one, and you're like, take his ass out. I mean, you're ready to jump up there and like, you cheer when he dies twice in this. But so they come out there and we got our standoff, and so help me, it felt like a western at high noon for a minute. The three of them were coming out there and like, let's kill him right this time. And Thor freaking hits that hammer or Stormbringer or whichever one. He's got both of them and stuff. Shield Captain's got his shield back. Tony's like ready this time. He's had enough. He's already had a freaking moon thrown at him. He's like, not again. And they're just kind of coming at him while he sits there. And this is coming amidst all the rubble and stuff. Let's kill him proper this time. That's right. Yeah, let's kill him proper this time. Great line. Um, I think the only thing you could have asked for is if you're like a Thor Avengers fan, and when Ultron wiped out that nation, you had Thor sitting there like, "We will have words with thee." That's the only time you could have made it better for me is if you pulled that line out. But that's going too deep, I think, in the comics. But anyway, So they're going out there at him and stuff, and you know this is just going to be a fight. You know that this is different because this at first they were trying to save the world. Now they had 5 years of you're invested 5 years of what you've done to us. Half you killed half the universe. You did this. We're here. We're there. It went from the stakes being high to where now they could actually be called the Revengers, in more of my opinion. And it's so much more personal now. On top of everything, there's just there's just more added to it, than a superhero story now, right? And they go at him, and then it finally happens. They hinted at this in Avengers: Age of Ultron, a movie that I said was nothing but a rehash of the first Avengers movie. But they hinted at it that Tony could pick up Mjolnir. Now I knew he could because of the comics. Thor 390. I had that whole what was it, the Falco Ron Friends run there for a while. I don't think I have that book now. I'm gonna might look around and stuff. But I knew Thor. I knew Captain America could do it. If you read the freaking comics, you knew Steve Rogers could pick up that freaking hammer, and he does in this one. They're sitting there fighting Thanos. He's starting to, they get a few good shots in. Thanos is starting to win, and then all of a sudden that hammer comes out of nowhere. Right when we're back, they've switched places. Thanos now has Stormbringer on Thor's chest and starting to push it into him slowly, and then all of a sudden Mjolnir comes in and takes him out, and then you see this great big huge sequence of freaking Captain America spinning that, shooting him with lightning, hand to hand with him, up to the face, knocking him down. I mean, he handed Thanos his ass for a while. And then Thanos has had enough and he goes freaking berserker psychotic and he beats Captain America down so bad that now his shield is busted. Iron Man's over there, Thor is over there, and all of a sudden all his troops come down. There's Thanos' troops and stuff, and they're coming down and they're ready. And you see all the people. This was such a scene stiller. Yeah, it was, man. And all of a sudden we get something, and so help me, my mind went to Frank Frazetta. You get this scene where the fight was badass. Yeah, and that's where we're at now. Now where we're at, and what happens? Captain America's sitting there. He's got half a shield, and you got Thanos sitting there ready. His whole army comes down, and then we get this shot that's way back. And when this comes out on DVD, you just need to freaking pause it because you got Captain America over here. Way over here, you got Thanos. You got smoke, this big crater that they're in, rubble all around them, and up on the cliff, up on the edge there, you got the spaceships floating, and you got an army of like it looks like a freaking Slayer concert out of Lord of the Rings at the same time, and it's just Cap with half a shield, bloodied up and dirty and stuff, and him. And then this is where I'm gonna call it, man. I'm gonna say it. If you're a man, maybe a comic book fan, I don't want to exclude anybody, but if you love these movies, you're going to tear up here because all of a sudden you hear a little static out of his ear, and you hear Cap. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I was actually applauded when Cap willed Mjolnir. Yeah, we cheered. I cheered. Some other people cheered. Yeah, there's some cheering going on in this. On your left, yeah. And all of a sudden, if you go back to how in the movies, how Sam and Cap met, he kept running, he kept lapping Sam, while they were jogging and stuff. He kept saying, on your left, on your left, on your left. All of a sudden, you hear Cap, it's me, Sam. And then you hear on your left. And then all of a sudden, you see the Doctor Strange circle, sparkly thing, as Peter Parker called it, and all this stuff, man. And out walks T'Challa, and all our heroes come out, and then you see Sam fly in there. And you gotta watch real close, man. But Sam was kicking some butt. Sam freaking landed on some aliens, man, and took those wings and stabbed them with them and stuff like that. All of a sudden, it was like this silence, and people were cheering and sniffing and crying, and we got all our heroes back. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, you got everybody standing there, and they're pissed. That's the thing about it. You go from being like, it's happening, they're here, the great introduction, everybody's back. But every one of those freaking actors, the way they emoted, every freaking one of them, what the looks on their face, what they were emoting, and things like that, you saw freaking cinematic history. I'm not, the hype is real on this one right there. You've been on this journey with them. I keep saying it. You're invested with them. You know what's going on. The looks on their faces of like, yeah, you just oh my god, you can't not put it into words, right? And then all of a sudden, we have our Lord of the Rings moment. I'm calling it what it is and stuff like that. You got the face off and all this stuff, man, and then they just go at each other. And then this is where where you just need to shut up and watch. The audience really cheered when the heroes began emerging, and as they should be. It was a big buildup. It was perfect. This is where the part of the movie is. This is what I'm saying when I buy this. I'm going straight to the fight. Everything else was just leading up to it. This was the payoff. And finally, Cap says Avengers assemble. He said it was style. Yes, comic book of Steve. Yes, he did. We're standing there and you hear Avengers was in assemble and they just go at it, man. The way he delivered that line was perfect and they go and you have everybody. And then we get a few surprises. We get to see Pepper Potts in her Iron Man armor. Um, and then the fight goes on, and then you have Hawkeye emerging, like, "Hey Cap, what do you want me to do with this thing?" He's got the gauntlet in the middle of this big battle. I mean, when they went into the big battle, man, they just kind of panned across, and you saw the heroes running, going at him, and all of a sudden there's a giant man punching one of those gigantic freaking flying giant millipedes. Um, oh my God, it was just so good. It was just awe inspiring. It really was. And then we get back to the story of the gauntlet. Thanos is trying to get the gauntlet, and Hawkeye's right in the middle of it. And we go back to Ant Man in that ugly brown van. That's the only thing they have left to try to get rid of this gauntlet to get away from him. I don't know what they were going to do with it because they had to go back in time and put the stones back where they were. They've already made it. Already said this, and the way this was coming off, they were just going to throw it in the quantum field and get it away from him, let it disappear. I don't know. I don't know. Don't want to overthink that. But this is where we get to see a gauntlet running. And this was genius as we got to see all your heroes and you got to see across this battle. We went from Hawkeye running with it, with everybody coming at him. And all of a sudden, Black Panther shows up. He's like, "Give it to me." Perfect. And then all of a sudden, it goes to Spider Man, and we get our Spider Man moment back. Because I knew people came to my office door at work and said, "Did you see Infinity War?" And they're like, "They killed Peter, they killed Spider Man." These people don't freaking read comics and stuff, but the Spider-Man got him. So we get our Spider-Man, and we get to see. It seems like he got like something about his armor that people wanted to see that there was a kill button on it or something. It did a kill mode initiated or something, right? And we get all this great stuff going on, and then all of a sudden they feel rain fire because Scarlet Witch stepped up. And when Scarlet Witch stepped up to go against Thanos in the middle of this big battle, that was the first time that even the people who didn't say anything and didn't cheer for in the theater, when she stepped up, it was this across the whole theater, and that was so freaking cool. And she said, "You cost me everything." I don't even know. And Thanos is like, "I don't even know who you are." And Thanos and then Scarlet Witch did it. Oh, got a what we got here? And then all of a sudden, what they did with Scarlet Witch is how I picture the Dark Phoenix being. You know what I mean? She handed Thanos his ass. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was nice seeing one to get her moment. Yeah, what a moment it was. She completely, totally, freaking owned that moment in that little fight. I mean, we just saw Captain America with his, using Mjolnir. We saw Captain America and Iron Man going at him, and Thor got his Viking beard, and, braided and stuff when he changed and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, you see Scarlet Witch pop up, and you're having another moment of like, all hell. And she messed him up to where he said rain fire, and he was willing to sacrifice his freaking army. He had his ship turned down and start shooting. I don't know, raining. It felt like a little like Vietnam with napalm, but this was like space napalm with laser beams, coming down and everything like that on everybody because she had lifted him up and was like crushing him. And I mean, she was going to kill him. It was over. She had him. And then all of a sudden, you see the light come in. Now, the thing about Captain Marvel is that I'm not going to turn this into the bashing of Brie Larson and the Captain Marvel and stuff, but she got zero cheers. She got zero cheers. I've left her out on purpose. She got zero cheers when she showed up. Nobody cares. That's what was amazing in this theater. Nobody cared. But she came in and they used her exactly how she should have been because the big scare was that after 11 years of all these heroes building up to this, that they were going to have Captain Marvel come in and save the day and steal everybody's thunder and stuff. Story wise, that's stupid. That's cheap. That's like reading a Agatha Christie novel thinking you figured out who the murderer is, and they introduce a new character 5 pages before the ending. No, you don't do that. Well, they didn't do it. They used her appropriately, and they were kind of setting her up here. But I figured out something that they're doing. But anyway, so she comes in and she takes out. Yeah, she got cheers in my theater. Knights of Old. Good, awesome. Okay, awesome. My theater, none. Right? Nobody cared. They really didn't. And. And some of the people I've talked to that have seen it, no, nobody mentioned her. Mine too. Cool. Okay, cool. All right. Don't want to start anything, guys. Just telling you what happened in my theater. So anyway, um, she came in and she took out the thing. We finally get to see her go head to head with Thanos a little bit. And if you watch real closely, there's a part where she was like on his ass. She was down on him. She was getting him right. And there's a part where she's holding on to the gauntlet. She's jerked it off a couple times. Thanos has thrown her to the side. She comes right back, and then Thanos headbutts her, and she doesn't budge. And it was at this moment where I was like, "Oh my God, Captain Marvel is Zack Snyder's Man of Steel." That's what I was sitting there thinking. I'm like, they're writing her like the Man of Steel. This is our Superman. No cheers in mine. She was well though. Okay, Kid Ragnarok, Knights of Old, and Thuggy One. Okay, we got 2 and 2 here. Awesome. I can live with that. We got a balance. Dennis would be happy. My first viewing crowd was loud. Second viewing the next day was a quiet crowd. Okay, cool, cool. All right, awesome. So she comes in and stuff like that, and like I said, they used her just right because let me back up a little bit, right? Um, she shows up and looks at Spider Man after she's taken down Thanos' ship, and she's like, "Give me the you got something for me there?" This gauntlet, and I mean, ironically, the gauntlet of chasing the gauntlet was just fantastic. Hawkeye, Black Panther, Spider Man. He even used Mjolnir and he jumped on Valkyrie's flying horse, the Pegasus and all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden we got Captain Marvel saying, "You got something for me there?" And he's like, You're going to be all right. Can you make it?" or something like that. And all of a sudden you hear, "She's not alone." And they take this moment. Now, let me tell you why I think this was freaking fantastic, right? You get this moment where we get every one of, I hate even saying this, right? I mean, to refer to them, I don't want to put a label on them, right? They're our heroes. But we have a moment where all our female heroes get the pan across and are going to back up Captain Marvel. All right. We got even Mantis look badass. Here's why that worked. I hate when they show girls trying to be all badass and stuff. It's so bitchy and mean girl style in middle school. And every one of these actresses that paint in this fantastic shot where the women are kicking ass and stuff like that, they make you believe they are going to mess you up. They would F you up, if you will, right? It was so, I caught myself being like, yeah, and all this stuff. And I was cheering with the ladies. I didn't know there was going to be a thing. And that's why I liked it that I didn't see them as ladies when this happened and stuff. They are going to mess you up. And it was just such a cool thing to see them go out there. And what Pepper Potts is right out there with her Iron Maiden armor or whatever it is and stuff like that. It was so freaking good. They had an extra little freaking moment there in this fight where you were just like, "Oh hell." Spidey hanging on to Valkyrie's Pegasus was delightful. Yep. Part of me heard that because it seemed forced political, but it looked awesome all running and fighting. That's it. It wasn't political. It was not political. Yeah, that's A Force moment was pretty damn rad. Yeah, and that was just it, man. It was they were heroes. This was not political. This was not pandering. This was not let's give the little ladies their moment. No, every one of them came down and through their stories in merit. Yeah, I'm even going to give it to Pepper Potts. You know what I mean? But it's through merit. This was like the revenge for Black Widows. What went through my head? Like that Black Widow's dead, and they knew it, and they're like, "Oh hell," because I mean, let's face it, she was the first female hero in this Marvel universe of movies and stuff. I think. Yeah, yeah. So that was our to me, that's what I saw, man. It was this rage that, she sacrificed, and now here's the moment. That's what I took out of it. It was a callback to like, you took her out. It was deserved. Yeah. All through merit. Their stories have been built up. We've seen them fight. We've seen them do everything. I'm not a fan of the Wasp in this one. I would have loved to seen the Michelle Pfeiffer, Janet Van Dyne years, not Hope. But that's just a personal thing. You get what I'm saying? It's like to me, it felt like she was kind of running in. She hadn't met any of these heroes, and she just all kind of looked at them, and they were all together in this. I guess. I mean, if I had to do it, but that's a character thing. That has nothing to do with the gender thing. You know what I mean? But oh man, but yeah, that everything about that was just so freaking good. And I mean, like I want to see that shot again. I mean, they nailed it, and they deserved it. And oh, it was so freaking good, man. They were, So after all this goes through, I figured out exactly. Here's the big spoiler. Okay, guys, big spoiler here, right? This is who dies. This is who dies, guys, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm paying attention to a lot of this stuff. And as the movie went further in, and I know we got more to go. You've watched my channel for years, man. I read the storytelling. I try to see if they're foreshadowing, if they're doing anything. And we get the thing where we get to see our two Sherlock Holmeses. I mean Tony and Doctor Strange, Iron Man and Doctor Strange there, where he asked Doctor Strange going back to well, of course, we had our Spider Man and Iron Man reunion. That was touching. Okay. But Tony asked Doctor Strange, is that this that 1 in 14 million chance of us surviving? He's like, I can't tell you, or the events won't happen to know. And then all of a sudden, Doctor Strange turns and looks at him and holds up his finger like one. This is when I knew Tony was going to die. And I think I actually knew what he was going to do. I just didn't know how he was going to get there. Okay? Because Thanos had the gauntlet. He's had the gauntlet. Tony runs up there and gets thrown around again a little bit and stuff, and grabs his hand, and Thanos goes like, says his big line, and he snaps, and nothing happened. And we look over there, and Stark technology again. Apparently can handle these stones, even in the armor he's wearing. Okay, maybe he's had 5. I don't know. I don't know. I want to say that he had 5 years to prepare for this or something like that, but we'll just let it go because they didn't know Thanos was going to come, and have another fight with him. He was dead. Anyway, but Tony's able to handle this. He's got it and stuff. And after Thanos says that I am, inevitable, we have Iron Man who looks there, and this is when I knew what was going to happen. I knew it. I was just sitting there, and I don't know what was going on around me in the crowd. I'm in a bubble on my own right here and stuff, but I'm just watching this, and I know what's coming. It was an odd feeling. And I'm like, oh no, this is the. And he does the snap, and then we see the army of Thanos turn into ash and everything like that. Then we see Thanos just sitting there, and he slowly goes to ash, and then we see Tony, and you got Peter Parker running up there, and who else was there? Somebody was there. Peter Parker was there. Captain Thor's staring at him. Then Pepper comes up to him, and this goes back to when he looked at her way back in the movie and said he could just take this whole time travel thing, put it in a box, dump it in a lake, act like it didn't happen. And she said, but you couldn't rest if you did that. And what does Pepper do? She smiles and she tells him that she and Morgan, his daughter, are going to be all right, and you can rest now. She knew exactly what to say to him to let him let go, and then the light went out, and it's over, and everybody's bawling. So yeah, Tony went out like a hero. He started all this. Of course, Endgame had to end with him. You know, here I was thinking it was going to be Captain America and Tony dying. I am Iron Man. Yeah, my eyes got a little watery. Yeah, yeah, and they should have been. It was just perfect. I mean, but like I said, as soon I knew when they went to 1970, I thought they were both going to die, and I knew he was going to die when Doctor Strange held up the finger. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was well written. It was well deserved. It was so good to see them let him go out the way exactly how he should have been. Tony, who was the party animal, drunk, whoremonger, all this stuff, whatever, to being the man he is with the daughter and the family and figuring everything out. Just yeah, it was a journey, man. It was a journey. Took Peter Parker under his wing, which I didn't think worked in the comics, but it worked in the Marvel Universe movies. So I'm just gonna, yeah. I really did think Cap was going. I probably would have legit wept. Haha, that's the one that would have got me. When it comes to those Marvel movies, it's the Jack Kirby thing, and it was how well they handled the first Avenger movie that I have. I just have three of the Marvel movies. I'm stuck on Dear Mr. Fantasy now. Oh my God, I laughed when they played that. I laughed when I played two of the songs they played in the movie. I kind of laughed. I made the joke. I'm like, oh my God, are we using the Supernatural soundtrack? Just kind of joking, because I know we get those great '70s hits and stuff with '60s and '70s hits with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But Dear Mr. Fantasy was just I never would have seen that coming. I was like, yeah. Um, I really don't know why they picked that. I really don't. So anyway, Tony dies, and he died well. I can't believe that's the only way I know how to put it, man. And it was silent in there and sniffing. I mean, when my friends and I sat down at the theater to watch this, I turned and looked at Star and Tim, and I'm like, "This is our Return of the Jedi. This is our Return of the King. This is our Devil's Rejects." I was like, I know, that's an odd one to throw in there. And I was just sort of like, this is a history. This is the end of an era. You're supposed to spend this with friends and stuff, you know. It was an investment. We didn't know what we were getting when that our first Iron Man came out. So that's why I'm saying Infinity War was the better movie, and but this movie was the perfect goodbyes. You know, the perfect endings. You know, the story structure was just all over the place. It was Back to the Future too, guys. That's I mean, really, you know. But then we got the endings and stuff, right? So just to kind of wrap it up, because I didn't know I was going to talk about this for an hour and a half. It looks like, but just to wrap it up, we get Thor handling over. You know, he's letting go. He's taking his mom's advice to be who he's supposed to be and not who he's expected to be, or whatever that was. And he leaves Asgard in the hands of Valkyrie. Devil's Rejects. I kind of get that. I dig that flick, by the way. Yeah, to me, Devil's Rejects is way up there. It was a goodbye celebration movie. Yeah, it was your payoff for supporting these movies from anywhere from 11 years to if you just jumped on with Captain Marvel. This was uh, this was for the fans. At least that's how it felt. You know, it's thank you. It was a big thank you. I mean, really, that's how it came off, and whether that was their intention or not, that's exactly what it should have been. You know, you invested a lot of time and money and things like that in this, and it paid off. You know. So all of a sudden, but the ending for Captain America. I mean, we had our endings. We had Hawkeye, his family. We had Wanda and Hawkeye getting to talk about just a moment about the Vision and Scarlet Witch being gone, and you know the big funeral scene for Tony and him getting to say "I love you 3000," which was all over the internet. Like an encore at a concert, yeah. And I was starting to get worried that we were going to get the Return of the King endings, where we get 20 endings, like that kind of. You reach a point where like just end it, and I didn't want that to happen. Well, it didn't. So we have Thor going off with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we get Tony and Winter Soldier, Sam, and the Hulk. Do you think we are done? Are we going to have a next generation Avengers movie with new numbers? I don't know. I don't know. The next set of movies that they're doing is a 5 year plan. Let me revisit that. Let me and I'll talk about that. Then they turned around and they're going back exactly like they said they would, and they're going to return all the stones and they're letting Captain America do it. Turn your brain off here, okay? Do not think about what he has to do to return all those stones. Like, how did he get the soul? My biggest thing is how is he going to get the soul stone back on that planet? And he has to see the Red Skull when he does it. I mean, you know, just turn it off. Just turn it off. Sending one person, Captain America, back without a spaceship or anything. He has Mjolnir. He went back in time. They put him on a platform outside. They're outside by a lake for some reason. I guess it's because there's no Avengers compound. I guess they're going to do time travel outside instead of in a building. Whatever they did, don't think too much. We just had to get our ending. I thought it was a young Reed Richards at the funeral, but it was a kid from Iron Man 3. Yeah, yeah. I was sitting there in the theater saying, "Who the hell was that?" Asking, "Who the hell was that?" I did look it up. I think it was this morning. I looked it up last night to see who the hell was that kid. Yeah, it was the kid from Iron Man 3. He's just what 6, 7 years older now. That's why they said don't feel bad for not recognizing him. But so anyway, they send Cap back with all the stones. He's going to take them back and put them precisely back in time where they need to be. He has Mjolnir, so I'm kind of wondering, is he taking the hammer back or did he keep it? Does he, Thor took it from the past. Does he, again, your eyes will cross if you think time travel. But all of a sudden, he doesn't come back. In their time, he was supposed to be back like in 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. And he didn't come back, and they're kind of freaking out a little bit. And then all of a sudden, they turn, and Winter Soldier sees this old man on a bench looking over the sunset in the water and stuff. And he's got like this thing, is a shield, in a leather pouch. Now, I paid attention to this right here. I got my friends. I can back me up on this. I think he took the hammer back to Asgard. Yeah, I think he did. That's what I think he did. But I was paying attention because Winter Soldier, Bucky, looked at Captain America right before they sent him back in time and said, "I'm going to miss you." And I was like, as soon as he said that, I turned and looked at my buddy, Anderson there, and I was like, what does he mean by that? And right there, I knew something was going on. I got witnesses, I knew there was something up. And the whole time that Captain America, who has now got to be like 110, I don't know, I'm like, you're 90 or I don't know. Born in the 20s, so yeah, I guess late 90s, if not right at 100 years old, who knows. But he's sitting there and he's talking to Sam, and he's going to give Sam the shield and let him be Captain America. And the whole time, Bucky is looking and not saying anything, and he's just telling Sam it's okay, nodding to him. He knew what was going to happen. Captain America, in my opinion, told Winter Soldier exactly what he was going to do and that his plans to be there. But anyway, the whole thing is Captain America went back in 1945, and he got some of that life Tony told him to have a couple years ago, and he got to live his life with Sharon, with not Sharon Carter, but Carter, the lady he left behind, and it ends with them dancing. He had missed his date all the way back in the first Avengers with her, and he got to see her in 1970. And he always had the picture of her that he carried around in the compass and stuff. And Captain America got it. Cap's my favorite Marvel character, and I loved his ending. Honorable and enough mystery to keep the dream alive. Peggy, thank you, Peggy Carter. Yeah, and it was the perfect ending for Captain America. My favorite character out of these Marvel Universe movies. My favorite movies are the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but the Captain America ones, Captain America is the character. Yeah, Bucky definitely knew. Cap's ending was truly touching. I loved it. Yeah, but Bucky knew. And to me, that's perfect. Now, the reason I think that's important, and I think that's also fan service for the comic book people, is Bucky did become Captain America. They're making it to where it's Sam, the Falcon and stuff, right? This was a much better way to handle it. They got out of that they got out of they really dodged a bullet. And I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, the movie fans, would have been upset, but at least I feel like they were considered enough to acknowledge it for the comic book fans. We're skipping over Bucky, but Bucky knew. Go back and watch the movie. We don't have to make a big deal about it. It's just acknowledged. And that's the thing that people in comics that write comics and all this stuff, I don't think they realize that when you're starting to do stupid crap in your comic books, you can just take a minute to acknowledge something or give us a little hint, and that settles a lot of issues right off the bat. I loved it. I knew Bucky knew. As soon as he said, "I want to miss you," I was like, "Did nobody else hear that?" That's how I felt. So the perfect ending came with Captain America, the first Avenger, getting to go back and get his life back and do it. Now, I already know there's some people that are upset by that, and also, but I mean, I think there's just people that want clicks on the internet, and I think it's edgy now to hate the Beatles and to hate happy things and happy endings and stuff. Not to keep you, but do you think the undersea earthquake near Wakanda was a Namor tease? Um, I think Cap probably messed up the time stream or whatever by doing it though. I loved it. Yeah, they already went into the fact that everything from the time stream of changing time and stuff in the movies, they took a minute there where they told you everything you saw in movies was crap. Okay, so no, I don't think they messed up the time stream. I think by putting the stones back where they're supposed to be, nothing got changed, and that actually gives Cap an excuse to stay retired because anything he would have done superhero wise through the 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff would have changed time. I mean, it's one of those things where I hate time. I really do hate time travel stories in comics. And funnily enough, time travel is a big thing for John Byrne and his comics and stuff. But they can be fun. But this is one of the first ones that doesn't really cross your eyes because they acknowledged so much and just flat out made it. They just flat out simply told you forget all the time travel rules that you saw in movies and stuff like that because it's all crap. That's not how it works. You can't change the past, because it's your future self and you still have your present self. Eyes cross. You know what I mean? They made it simple. They were like, just don't think about it too much. Forget about Back to the Future and all these things you've seen. They don't apply to this movie, is what they were telling you. So yeah, it's. I hate to say the word, but it's convenience. A lot of this story was just told to move it along. From the rat just happened to walk across a dashboard and hit the right button out of something I don't understand, still have power. Batteries don't last 5 years. To the fact that Cap was able to get a soul stone back to a planet, out in a different solar system. I mean, just don't think about it. I mean, who knows what adventures he had. But at the same time, instead of like sitting there and critiquing this, I that could be a whole movie where the writers do a whole. I mean, could you imagine a whole last Captain America movie where it's the saga of the stones and putting them back? For all we know, he got the Asgard, and the Asgardians took him out into space. You know what I mean? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. He could have met Loki again, and maybe they transported out there. Who knows? There could be, it's time travel. Captain America could have had an adventure for a year getting the Soul Stones back to exactly where they needed to be, and then go back to 1945. I mean, he's damn old at the end of that movie, and I am going to say that he's over 100 years old because we still have to add the time, the decade that he was in our time, and then he went back and kept aging. He was already 10 years older when he went back, 1945. I thought he could give the stone to somebody there. Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you can critique it and point out things, and it's a movie of convenience and things they did just to get the story going along, or you could have some fun with it and imagine these big adventures where it gets answered and stuff. You know what I mean? But it was a perfect ending. Now they were talking about the whatever the nod to Namor. I think I missed this. I know there was water. I thought it had something to do with the explosion of Thanos had caused. Guessing the timeline, Cat's super soldier serum doesn't decrease his aging. I think it definitely slowed it down. You know what I mean? There's no telling how old Cap was at the end of that movie because we don't know how long it took. I mean, like I said, he already aged 10 years with us. And then who knows how long he time traveled and bounced around with those souls, excuse me, with those stones. I mean, it could, I've watched a lot of Doctor Who, man. Oh, my battery's at 15%. Can we do this? He could have just give the stone to the skull, right? He could have. Guess in the timeline, Cap's super soldier serum doesn't decrease his aging. Yeah, that's what I mean. I really would. If I had anything that I really wanted answered, is how did he get that stone? How did he get the two stones back into space? The Power Stone and you know the Soul Stone. If anything, I don't know if those are dangling plot lines, but I think there is an answer. Maybe he did something to the end to end the serum's effect. He's done it before. A lot of people don't realize that the Super Soldier Serum in Marvel continuity, when they still had it, turned out it isn't a drug. It isn't a serum. It turns out that it's a virus. They actually changed it to a virus because of the stigma of doing drugs and stuff, drug enhancement and stuff. This is why political correctness is ridiculous because it changes over time. But the super soldier serum got retconned for no reason as being a virus and not a serum. He could have used the gems to get around, leaving stuff to our imagination. What makes it great? Exactly. That's the best way to put it. Who said that? It'll come back on there. But yeah, there's a lot left. That I didn't realize that, but that does make the ending even better. There's still a sense of mystery and wonder. They didn't tie it all up in a nice tight little bow. I'm just now realizing that, doing this stream and stuff, right? There's still enough there to where you're like, I wonder what happened. There's still that little wonder. And I'm going to compare it to like being a little kid and seeing more magic with your imagination than you can do now as an adult. You know what I mean? So yeah, that even make that wonder, not answering all those questions, probably did make it much better because we're sitting here talking about it now, and we got a good little conversation going there. Yeah, Knights of Old had made that comment when all the heroes showed up. I thought, damn, imagine if DC had their shit together, and they were yeah, and I was imagining the big fight as DC character taking on Darkseid. That's lacking in most movies lately. Yeah, well, that's two different comments there. Y'all read them there. Yeah, it'd be nice to see, considering that Thanos, Jim Starlin makes no bones about it. Thanos is a direct inspiration from Darkseid. I don't consider it a ripoff because he's putting his hand up like, hey guys, I'm a Kirby fan. I like Darkseid. I made Thanos so I can have my Darkseid. That's why I don't consider it a ripoff. To me, a ripoff is where you try to play innocent about it. You know what I mean? You acknowledge it, you say where it came from. But I know movie people won't get that if Darkseid ever does pop up in the DC movies. I'm not counting the DC movies out at this point. They're really starting to get their stuff together. They've stopped trying to be Marvel movies, if you will. Each movie's the thing that kills DC movies is they waste a lot of characters when they bring them on the screen, and they can't figure out what tone they want their movies to be. That's why Wonder Woman was so good. It was just a damn Wonder Woman movie. You know, I love that movie. And yeah, Patty Jenkins was tied to the Marvel movies, at one point. I'm not going to get into that. They're lacking in the most. They're lacking in the most movies lately. Just like Namor would have been as a copy of Aquaman by movie fans. Yeah, I mean, but as far as the Namor reference I keep hearing about, I totally missed it, guys. Usually I can spot the Easter eggs and the references and stuff. I really don't know. Removing mystery by explaining too much ruined things like Boba Fett, midichlorians, etc. Yeah, big mistakes. Midichlorians were it was a big mistake. It took out this spiritual aspect of it and turned it into like I can just get a bacterial infection and become a Jedi. Ridiculous. They made the force too easy to use. I mean, you can say Rian Johnson all day long, but the fact is the way they handle the force now. That's what's really killed it. There's no merit and work to controlling it. It doesn't feel like. And I'm not gonna get into it. We'll do a Star Wars stream where I bitch, and I'm like, well, you should have quit at '83, man, 1983. Okay, guys. So if you like the movie, comment down. If you made it this far, that's cool. Apparently, a lot of people stayed here consistently for this, and I appreciate that. But I love the movie. I love the ending. It wrecked me in a few places. It had me cheering in a few places. The scene with Captain Marvel coming from space to destroy his ship, they missed out using the Nova Corps. Yeah, I could see that. John Jones. Thuggy loved it. I love the movie. I say go see it. If you've been invested for 11 years, turn off your brain, go enjoy it, let the feels take over. Can't believe I'm saying the word feels. First, I get a Roku, and now I'm saying words like feels. Um, oh, getting dragged into this decade or Richard Rider introduction. Yeah, that see now we're getting into the comic book stuff where like I'm kind of with you on this. They completely wasted the Nova Corps, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure that planet got blown up in the Marvel universe. You know what I mean? In the Marvel universe movies and stuff, right? But yeah, there's a lot they kind of missed out on. But I'm not going to get into the Captain Marvel thing now. The next we'll see. I haven't been to the cinema in years. I finally saw Watchmen on TV last week. I keep the ultimate cut of Watchmen at hand. Were you disappointed by no after credit scene? My last Marvel movie was Iron Man 3. Thanks for the stream. Hey, thanks, man. First of all, Watchmen. I'm a Watchmen fan. Love Watchmen. I'm totally biased. The ultimate cut, to me, is the only way to watch it. I haven't watched the director's cut, which I think they just don't have the cartoon scenes from the pirate story in here, the Black Freighter. Now, as far as having no credit scene at the end, or no extra scene after the credits, then how do you explain that as Guardian Warriors in the last fight? Did I miss something here? I must have said something. But anyway, yeah, Paulo got on there. He's saying this is the end of a cycle. It makes no sense. There's no after credit scene. Yeah, the after credit scenes played a role, except for the Avengers. The Avengers won at the end of the Avengers. Oh, well, no, that actually does make sense. That was like an end of a phase where they brought all the Avengers together, and then you see them in the after credit scene at Avengers is them eating at a diner that they just kind of mentioned during the big fight of invasion of New York. We see them eating and stuff. It's comical, but that's because this was the end of a phase and didn't really tease the next movie. But the next phase was what they led up to, the Infinity War stuff and everything like that, leading towards it. We finally got to see a little bit of Thanos. I think we saw him before. I'm not going to get into being the continuity of the Marvel Universe movies. We're going back 11 years, 22 movies, three of which I think I haven't, two I haven't seen. I don't know. But anyway, and I'll end up seeing them. I didn't see Iron Man 3. I tried to watch Iron Man 3. That was awful. And then I tried watching, what was the other awful movie? I'll come back to it. Anyway, but we're at the after credit scene. I had no problem with it. This is an ending, right? The ending credit scenes that they had, at the end of Avengers didn't really move it forward. They might have had a mid credit scene. I don't know. But that's what I'm trying to say. Those things pushed the story along. Those credit scenes were part of the story. They were cliffhangers like you would see in comics and things like that. They played a role. There should be an end of credit scene in this one. This is Endgame. This isn't going to lead. This is the end of their story. You know, it's not going to lead to anything. They gave us their Easter eggs in the movie itself. Thor moving on and things like that. I don't understand the question I got about explaining the Asgardians. I don't mind the post credits, really limited to the finale of it. The only one I haven't seen is Thor: Dark World. Ant Man and Wasp was terrible. Thank you. Yeah, the Ant Man movies. I like Paul Rudd, and I like the nod to Hank Pym. I want to see the stories of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Those, in retrospect, like they kind of gave us in those. I finally broke down and watched them. Those things are just so disjointed from the rest of the movies that I'm just sort of, yeah, they're my least favorite. But at the same time, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies as much as I love the Captain America movies themselves. It's the Guardian movies I can watch over and over. Even the second one, uh, to me, the second one doesn't freaking touch the first one. That first one's gold. The first Ant Man was good, but I didn't think the second one was needed. It wasn't. It really wasn't, and we didn't need. That's what I mean. I'm kind of down on the Wasp character in that one. The X Men trailer before the movie still looked terrible. Okay, full disclosure here. Full disclosure. X Men 3, The Final Stand, terrible. Okay, the building back up of them with first year or whatever it was, and you know, I like I like the X Men movies by Bryan Singer. I do. I like that franchise. Oh, my battery's going to die. But my thing is that hold on. But my thing is that like I think it's because it's something different. Um, it's like comic books, man. I like having a bunch of different companies to see how they handle things. They will never do Dark Phoenix storyline correct. There's no way they can. There's no way they can unless they do what Marvel did, in my opinion. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm really biased in this, man. The X Men Dark Phoenix saga is goes back to where I was 7. I got a history with it. X Men 1, 2, and Logan were best. Yeah, that's what I mean. Um, I like both Ant Man flicks, but I agree that The Last Stand, pure garbage. Dark Phoenix looks like a rehash. I'm gonna give Dark Phoenix a chance because Bryan Singer's on it, and I feel like we're gonna be getting visions of what he originally wanted to do. Um, you gotta understand, I'm really trying not to defend the movies. I'm not here to convince anybody or anything like that. Hold on here. My phone's going to die if I don't get a charge on it. There we go. So, but the thing about it is that it's like comics, guys, and television and stuff. And like I said, I'm not trying to tell anybody anything about what they should think or feel or their opinion is on this one. But um, having a variety of stuff is good. You know what I mean? If we just had Marvel movies as good as they are and stuff like that, I don't think they would have survived as long as they have. X Men started in what, 2000, 2001? We got a variety of stuff. We get different heroes and stuff. We've had good stuff. The movie to me was Tom. I want it to fail, but I want to see it. Uh, they went out. I'll do those in a minute here, there, stuff like that. But I like the X Men movies because it's its own little universe. You know what I'm saying? With the X Men, you got 22 movies to pull from. They're more exciting, better, more superhero, if you will, and stuff like that. But to me, X Men really taps into a lot of nostalgia because they went to Days of Future Past, acknowledged it. You know what I mean? They threw in some random characters you never thought they would see. You would see as X Men. Come on, I mean, I saw Warpath in a movie. You know what I mean? Blank made it. Blank was one of those characters where I got that people really liked her. She didn't blow me away, but when I saw her in the movie, I was like, oh my god, you know. Well, I'm starting to lose people here. We've been here for an hour and 42 minutes. Throw out your questions if you got anything. Um, I appreciate everybody that stuck around. Thumbs up it, subscribe, share it. And if you got some questions, throw them out here. I'm going to drink my coffee for a minute. I'm cool talking about this. Actually, I've really enjoyed this stream, which is kind of wild, considering I didn't prep for it. All I did was watch a movie. I don't prep for half my videos anyway. I just do a stream of consciousness and memory, which is why I make mistakes. If I studied, I'd get straight A's. All right, guys. So I hope everybody liked the movie. I hope everybody checks out the movie, and you know, I hope these movies keep getting made. Now, the next phase that's coming in is supposed to be a 5-year plan, and I've heard things of Shang-Chi getting a movie, which could be really cool. With what I saw it. You're a better man than I. Dark Phoenix is a hard pass for me, and that's cool, man. That's King Ragnarok. It was great, but I love Warlock. Okay, yeah. Why? Yeah, yeah. At the end of Guardian Galaxy 2, they teased we were going to get a freaking Warlock. That is a problem I have because we never got our Warlock. And don't tell me that's not what they were doing. Okay, I want my Adam Warlock. I'm hoping the next five is based around Galactus. I don't know. It'd be awesome if they did anything. But so far, I've heard Eternals. I've heard Shang-Chi. I got all excited because I heard a Mobius, the vampire movie, was coming. And then my buddy last night told me that's under the Spider-Man uh, rights. So it's a Sony movie. The next movie, the Spider-Man, I think Warlock will be in Guardians 3. That'd be cool. But the next Spider-Man movie that's coming out, that is actually like an epilogue. I wouldn't do a Warlock based on the Startle material. I'd go for the Counter Earth storyline. Sorry, I think this movie. Okay, but what was I saying? But yeah, I mean, crap, I lost it. What I was saying, I was on a roll too. But anyway, I found out the Mobius movie is under Sony, and that the next Spider-Man movie is actually considered the end of this. It's 23 movies instead of 22. I think they sort of the Russo brothers signed gave me the idea that the next Spider-Man movie is like the epilogue, and that's where this really ends. And then the next set of movies will be 5 years. But I've heard Eternals, Shang-Chi. Who else have I heard about? And I don't know. I don't know where they're going with some of this stuff. I'll go ahead and tell you that Captain Marvel has just not blown me away to really spearhead something. But I really hope that I hope they go cosmic, even though they got a street level movie coming out. Perhaps Solo Gamora story picks up with her and the Strange Tales and brings in Warlock. That'd be awesome. Yeah, the Disney Sony and somebody just said when the Disney and Sony deal ends. So I'm going to look that up. But yeah, there's a lot of potential for the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and they're bringing back James Gunn. It's a done deal. But we'll have to wait for that one because he's supposed to be finishing up Suicide Squad 2 for DC, Warner Brothers, and he's going to come back for the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So there's a future with these movies. And I'm really glad. We need another Black Panther movie. I'm one of those people that Black Panther was damn good, but I think it's a bit overhyped. I think there's Marvel movies better than that one. But Black Panther was solid. I mean, that was so I, to see a Black Panther movie. My 12-year-old self was doing backflips. Looking forward to some more cosmic. Yeah, I think we want to see a little bit more cosmic. It'd be great if they pulled in all the heroes that they're getting their rights back to, but who knows? Shang-Chi, I'm really curious where they're going to go with it. Um, Doctor Strange is still out there. I wonder if they're going to be doing another Doctor Strange movie. And I'm trying to think. It seems like somebody supposedly said that Brie Larson had a 7 movie deal or something. So we got 2 in the can. That leaves 5 more. So we'll see what happens. See what happens. All right, guys. Over half the crowd's gone. So I'm going to call it in. It's an hour and 46 minutes. I thought this was just going to take an hour, but this has been fantastic. Like, share, subscribe, throw it out there, leave your comments in. Thanks for everybody doing that. I don't really play around on Twitter because it's a garbage dump. See you later, Thug. Good to see everybody too, man. I hope they take their time to find a Fantastic Forecast as good as the ones we had for these movies. They got nowhere to go but up on the Fantastic Four. Great discussion. Thanks, man. Thanks, everybody. All right, guys. Later on.